Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this glorious Sunday morning celebration at Unity of Chattanooga. One light brings us all together. One light inside you and me. One light shines in every person that I see. It's the light that shines inside of me. Oh, one light brings us all together. One light inside you and me. One light shines in every person that I see. It's the light that shines inside of me. It's the light that shines inside, you see. It's the light that shines inside that you see. And surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see love in every face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
So we take a moment now and we once again light that Christ candle, that light that is inside of every one of us. That special presence when we open our hearts and open our minds. We take a moment and simply know that we are guided, that we are loved, and that we are blessed with everything that we choose to do. And as we focus our minds and our hearts on that one power, that one presence, then everything that we need is supplied to us. And so for all these blessings, for this wonderful day, for this opportunity to be together once again, we say simply, thank you, God, and we know that it is so.
Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see love in every face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
Good morning and welcome to Unity of Chattanooga's Sunday Celebration Services. My name is Mona Petro and I serve on your Board of Trustees. Thank you to Landis for opening our service with your soulful energy and amazing songs to start a Sunday morning. And thank you to all the people who are behind the scenes that make the Sunday service possible. We truly appreciate all you do. For our online users, greetings, welcome. Please know that you're just as much a part of this service as if you are here in person. Give us a thumbs up and say hello to others in the comments section. Now, about Unity. Unity offers an inclusive spiritual community. We teach practical Christianity that combines new thought, wisdom, and guidance to give us richer life experiences. We join with the Unity worldwide movement in creating a world that works for all of us. Now, Is there anyone here joining us for the first time? Hi, welcome. We're honored that you've joined us today. Our ushers have a packet of information about Unity as a church and the New Thought movement. There's also a piece of paper in there that you could put in the basket if you would like to receive our monthly newsletter. Now, as a congregation, we share our love and appreciation for you with a special blessing.
Sheila, we love you.
So, everyone, this is fun, I promise. So we warm our hands together as we say, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. Welcome. Okay. We're truly grateful to be able to come together and know that the truth that there is one presence and one power in our lives, and that we call that presence and power by many names. But the bottom line is we are all one. When we come together in consciousness, we recognize the magnificence that we all have. Now, June is Pride Month, when the world's LGBTQ communities come together and celebrate the freedom to be themselves. Unity proudly supports the LGBTQ community. We believe everyone is divine and every person shines with the light of God. Unity extends an unconditional invitation to members of the LGBTQ community. We know who have often been rejected by religious communities because of who they are or who they love. Through prayer and community outreach, we are committed to be inclusive for all human beings, and that includes their gender identity and expression. Now, as you see behind us, we have the vision board. This is the church that we envision, the space that we envision, and we've talked about it week over week. So we invite you to bring your pictures, whatever vision that you have for our space, and put it on our vision board. There's little tacks there, so please share. Now, let's all greet each other with a warm handshake, a hug, or a namaste.
There are no strangers when you walk inside these doors. We welcome you to linger in our family of love and hold you in us the way you are. We are friends. There are no strangers when you walk inside these doors. Hey, we welcome you to linger in our family of love and hold you in us the way you are.
It's nice.
Let's find our ways back to our seats. Oh, we are friends here. There are no strangers welcome you to linger in our family of love and hold you in our hearts the way you are. And hold you in our hearts the way you are. And hold you in our hearts the way you are. My people. One power, one power, one power. There's one power, indivisible, and you see it everywhere, every day. One power, indescribable, and you speak it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth, as simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, bow, angels' wings of heaven's door, or whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power, one power. We speak so many languages, different clothing, different colors, different names. But difference only dangerous when we forget that in our hearts we're all the same. We'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such differences were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baal, Hashem, oh heaven's door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul, it's your sign, it's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth, the Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power, one power. It's the moment of creation. It's the everlasting peace. It's the freedom of forgiveness, the sweetness of release. It's the joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. It's the birthright of all nations. It's the boundlessness of space. It's the beauty of a baby, the serenity of sleep. It's the anger we abandon, for it's love that's most deep. It's the hug from another, a soft caress on your face. It's the joy that's everlasting. It'll never go away. It's the call at the right moment, just to see that you're okay. It's your presence, it's your spirit, it's your all. It's the power of the love in you and me. It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power, one power. One power, one power, one power. Oh, it's the power of the love in you and me.
One power. Yeah. That just might be what we're talking about this morning.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well done, buddy.
I
Thank
had to
you.
get up because Shannon told me to.
Oh, okay.
Shannon told me I make too many faces.
Oh, okay.
And I believe it.
Camera.
Oh.
Shannon, we're glad to have you back, buddy. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad the pictures are showing up. Isn't that great? You know, I just absolutely love it. And what I can tell you is the more we visualize and the more we're clear about what we want, the faster it's going to show up. So thank you so much, and I would encourage each and everybody to cut those pictures out. And by the way, if we need a bigger one, not a problem. We'll get a bigger one. Yeah. Well, last week we talked about the many spiritual disciplines and teachings that are available to us today, and I mentioned how my spiritual journey unfolded from my earliest days until I found unity. And I described an underlying feeling, a pull, a guidance in the direction of wanting greater spiritual understanding that took me through a variety of studies, various religions, disciplines, and organizations, all with a promise of a greater way of being in the world, living with a license of a higher order of beings, as Thoreau said. And what I found as I followed that pull, that guidance, was a gentle unfoldment, ever evolving from the simple 12 points of the Boy Scout law as a youngster to the greater laws of mind action and attraction that the New Thought movement describes. From following someone else's timeless wisdom that others said will work for you, to learning the tools of creating experiences and opportunities for myself. And all along the way, when the next step appeared, there was this ecstatic, electric feeling of excitement that would show up. I found it. It happened. The door opened. And we ended the talk with the idea that there's a path for every one of us, individualized for each one of us, with a divine guidance that we need and can follow at the time. we concluded by saying that there are many paths up the mountain if we are willing to do the climbing. Well, Joseph Campbell was a professor of comparative religions at Sarah Lawrence College, and he was one of the great philosophers and mystics of the 20th century. He studied the many aspects of the human experience, and he described the characteristics of the archetype hero shared by many world mythologies. George Lucas consulted with Campbell in the making of the Star Wars movie series, and Campbell's advice inspired the qualities of the characters in the story and the conflicts and the struggles that they encountered. May the Force be with you. The ascended master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who guides telepathically. The incarnated elder brother, Yoda, with abilities beyond the normal human being. And the hero, Luke Skywalker, and the evil Darth Vader from the dark side. All with a hidden connection between the two. In a 6-part television series with Bill Moyers, he discussed the hero's journey, the human experience that we all face. And Moyer asked him to describe briefly in a few sentences, how do we go forward? What signs do we look for to create a more meaningful and fulfilling life? And Campbell said, I can do it in 3 words. I've said it before, right? Follow your bliss. And that's what I found to be true. As long as I can stay centered on what that bliss is. But Campbell went on. And later in the interview he said, if you follow your bliss and put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while, in other words, if you put yourself on that track, waiting for you, and the life that you ought to be living is the one that you will be living. Follow your bliss. Don't be afraid. And doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. And finally, as you look back over your life, it will seem that it has been divinely guided and orchestrated all along and prepared just for you. That too is what I've discovered. And with a little gray hair or no hair and a fair amount of history behind me, I can tell you that it's true. And that's what last week's talk was kind of about. But there are so many questions. How do we know what our bliss is? If we can identify it, where does it come from? Where is that inner pull? That long-held desire that's been with us for years. Where does that come from? Are the doors that open, the opportunities that appear, are they from our own thinking? From the laws of mind action and attraction? And how do we know if it's the right one for us? Or is there a guardian angel, a divine guidance pulling the strings behind the scenes, helping us along? And what about those nefarious forces trying to trip us up? All those many temptations along the way. So many questions, so little time on a Sunday morning. Well, the answers revolve around the concepts of free will and the creative powers that we've been endowed with, and an all-powerful, loving and guiding presence that wants good and only good for us. A presence that has prepared an infinite number of possibilities for our spiritual growth and is available to actively assist us if we are willing to do the work, if we are willing to ask and seek and do what is ours to do. 20 years ago, when I was in Unity's 2-year ministerial program, we were sequestered on Unity's beautiful 1,400-acre campus in Lee Summit, Missouri. We started the day with reading the daily word in the Fillmore Chapel, followed by a short meditation time. Then classes during the morning and time for study in the afternoon. There was a restaurant on campus for meals, although most of us chose to have lunch and dinner in the houses that we stayed at on campus. I worked in Silent Unity, Unity's 24/7 telephone ministry, 3 nights a week, and I spoke at local Unity churches on most Sundays. I was immersed in a lifestyle of prayer and meditation, contemplation, study, and church work. Insights, visions, and what one of my colleagues called flying prayer were common. When I asked her what she meant by flying prayer, she said, well, you ask a question, you get an answer. It's conversational with your higher self and guidance. And although that happened a lot, I never put a name to it. It was just what happened. It was a time when miracles, answered prayer, and thoughts manifesting quickly were commonplace. That's the way life was. It was beautiful. Well, one day, some of my classmates decided to go out for dinner and drinks in town, and most of us decided to go. Welcome break, perhaps. And as we left the campus and entered the outside world, there was this rush of traffic, the billboards, noise, and general commotion of the town, plus the hustle and bustle of the restaurant. And after a drink or two, left me thinking, this outside world is nuts. It's insane. The difference between the cloistered, focused, and reverent environment of Unity's campus versus the organized chaos in the outside world was incredible. And I began to reflect on how hard it is to find spiritual guidance and peace of mind, to be able to follow your bliss in the activities of trying to make it in the world. The pace of life, the constant advertising, the TV, the news, the politics, the bigger, better, faster, the more, take this drug, eat this snack. If you eat this chocolate, you will be in nirvana. Please. Now, I know that I sound like a goody two-shoes half the time up here, regularly talking about prayer and meditation and being careful about who you hang out with and what you watch on TV or see in the movies. But I can tell you, what you put your attention on, you attract. As you think, it unfolds around you in like kind. And Jesus said it very clearly. No one can serve two masters. You will either hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Mammon means simply the things of the material world, wealth, things of that nature. Well, nice for the minister to say, but I have another hat that I wear too. And after our Sunday service, I usually go home and take a nap. And when Sunday night rolls around, I'll turn on the TV, I'll watch something that catches my attention, usually a documentary or a car show or a football game in the fall. And then it's Monday morning again. There's the to-do list. There's all the host of things that we're all involved with. I listened to a song the other day, and he said, you'd be surprised there's so much to be done. Count all the bees in the hive. Chase all the clouds from the sky. Well, some of you know I'm currently building a garage in my backyard. I like to ride a motorcycle when the weather's nice. I like to walk in the woods, and I'm tempted to start playing golf again, and half a dozen other things. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, you're saying, well, you're retired or halfway retired. It sounds so easy. I wish I could be in that situation. And I know it sounds easy for those of you who still are in the working world or raising a family. And here I am in my mid-70s, But there are worldly activities that I enjoy doing, and that's where my attention goes quite a bit of the time. And when the middle of the week rolls around, and Penny and Landis are calling me wanting to know what I'm going to talk about the next Sunday so that they can prepare, one of the most difficult things for me to do is to switch gears and to start thinking about what the next talk is going to be. It takes a while for me to change my thoughts around from life in the outside world to what next Sunday's message should be. I have to be quiet. I have to ask for guidance. I have to listen in meditation and slowly start catching those little glimpses that start coming up and write them down so I don't forget about it. And what I can tell you is once I start that process, once I shift over into that way of thinking, thoughts begin to come quickly. Books jump off the shelf to just the right page. Somebody will say something that just fits. I'll hear a song and it'll trigger another thought. It happens every week when I'm going to speak on Sunday. And I can tell you that it's hard to do. It's hard to shift gears from one world to the other. And if you can't do it, you're going to get stuck. Many years ago, in my working career in California, I was a plant manager of a fairly large manufacturing facility in town, and I was also the board president of our local Unity Church. And during one particular board meeting, a couple of the members looked at me and said, "Doug, we don't need a plant manager. We need a person with a ministerial consciousness." Well, coincidences being what they were, it so happened that my boss, the vice president of manufacturing for the company I worked for, was in town. And he knew of my involvement with the church. And at one point, he looked at me and he remarked, "Werth, we don't need a blank minister. We need a blank plant manager." It's hard to be in two worlds at once. Once again, the master confided, "The gate is wide, and the road is easy that leads to destruction. And there are many who take it, for the gate is narrow and the road is hard that leads to life. And there are few who find it." So, how do we find our bliss? And how are we able to follow it in the world? The most important thing is to find a spiritual practice that feels right for you. There are many religious, spiritual, self-help organizations, books, and groups that offer a path, ours being just one of many. Find one that seems to fit and follow its practices. Don't just read the books and intellectually understand the material. That's the booby prize. Follow the practices they recommend. And it will involve some quiet time, some reflection, and usually some form of prayer and meditation. Don't go wildly skipping from one to another looking for the philosopher's stone or the goose that laid the golden egg, the one right answer or insight that will achieve enlightenment. I can tell you that that quick trip is not there. At least I've never discovered it. Most disciplines will eventually lead or recommend an inward experience. And that is where you will find your true guidance. Once again, Jesus said it clearly. The kingdom of God is not coming with things that can be observed. It's not in that book, okay? It's not in that television series. He didn't say that. Nor will they say, "Look, here it is," or "There it is," for in fact, the kingdom of God is within you. That's what Charles and Myrtle did. That's what my journey led me to. And that is where I have found my greater guidance. This chosen spiritual practice or religious teaching, what we call unity, or the books that I'm reading, is what keeps my mind focused in a particular direction. But it is the regular discipline of prayer and meditation that has opened the inner doors. And this journey, this experience, this lifestyle is impossible if you're focused solely on the material issues in the world. There's an old saying attributed to divine ascended masters that says, to the degree you are with us, we are with you. Another thing, realize that the divine help that is part of this journey is not only available to everyone on the planet, but is always beckoning us onward and will flow through any and all who earnestly seek it. There's a divine conspiracy afoot to raise the consciousness of each and every human being, but it's up to each one of us to open the door and use the guidance and the gifts that we receive and use them wisely. And I can tell you, this has been going on for a long, long time. It's like water running down a hill. This guidance and the powerful gifts of expanded consciousness it brings will seek its own path. If one path becomes blocked or shuts down, it'll find another path. If you don't pick up the torch, there will be another seeker, another culture, another time that will. Great nations and great cultures are formed from great people, which is why Spirit is focused and available to each one of us individually, which, if you noticed, we affirm every Sunday after our offering in the form of a prayer or thanksgiving and gratitude. After the offering, every Sunday, I say something to this effect, something that through us, through each one of us, in a consciousness of loving abundance, we affect our families, our friends, the people that we work for, our community, and the world. And I can assure you that that's true. Psychologists have told us if you find a conflicted family, 4, 5, 6 people living together, and one person prays, just one, the whole family will feel much better, and that dissonance will go away. To see what I'm talking about, let's take a brief look, very brief look, at some of the history that we know this morning. In Genesis, we read that Terah, who's Abram's father, was guided to move from the Sumerian city of Ur near the Persian Gulf in present-day Iraq to Canaan. You know, God came down and said, move from here to there. But he didn't. He stopped short in the city of Haran, which is in southern Turkey. And it was his son, Abram, who then received the calling. Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. The torch was passed. Abram followed the guidance, became Abraham, and his son Isaac and Isaac's son Jacob became the patriarchs of the Jewish, Islamic, and Christian traditions. Now, as the story goes, Jacob's son Joseph is sold into slavery in Egypt, but rises through miraculous incidents to become the second in command to Pharaoh, just as the Hebrews come to Egypt to avoid a famine in Canaan. Coincidence? A story? Well, who knows? But what we do know is that Egypt was a very powerful country at the time, controlled by a powerful priesthood dedicated to a multiplicity of gods and their own power. And here comes a powerful Hebrew emissary and his people who believe in one God. Over time, it doesn't go well for the Hebrews. They're enslaved. But here's the interesting part. Around 1352 BC, a new pharaoh of the 18th dynasty comes into power in Egypt, Akhenaten, who attempts to convert the powerful ministry and all of Egypt to a new religion, the worship of one God, Anton he calls him, symbolized by the sun. Now, what we also know is his reign is short, and some say that he was assassinated. They don't quite know because they've never found his body. And the priests continued to control the people. But right around that time, Moses was born. As Akhenaten fades away, a new Pharaoh comes into power. And Moses eventually leads the Hebrews out of Egypt, and they find their way back to Canaan and develop a great nation under David and Solomon between 1000 and 950 BC. Coincidence? Or perhaps an attempt from a greater power to introduce a higher teaching to a people who then rejected it, so that greater power passes the torch to another who brings the Hebrews back to their promised land. Maybe. Well, things don't go well for the Hebrews again. David's son Solomon raises taxes to build the temple. Contentions and dissatisfactions arise, and the kingdom splits in two in 922 BC. The northern kingdom and the southern kingdom of Judea. Dissension in the ranks. Now, what would spiritual laws of thought predict from a nation divided, crabbing and complaining, yelling and screaming, and throwing rocks at the king? Well, 200 years later, the northern kingdom falls to the Assyrians, and the 10 northern tribes are lost forever. 130 years later, in 586, the southern kingdom falls to the Babylonians. The temple is destroyed, and the Hebrew leaders are deported to Babylon. Now, once again, something very interesting happens. During a 79 period from 630 to 551 BC, right in the middle of the Hebrew nation falling apart, 5 of the greatest ancient spiritual leaders are born. Zoroaster, the Iranian; Lao Tzu, the Chinese; Mohavara, the Jain; Buddha in India; Confucius, the Chinese, all within a 79-year period as the Hebrew nation is falling apart. And these are probably the greatest men to have ever appeared in the East. The impact of the teachings of these men upon their respective peoples was such that each inspired a religion which still flourishes to some degree. Is the timing a coincidence? Or perhaps plan B for the uplifting of mankind since the Hebrews faltered? Was Spirit passing the torch? Perhaps. Well, all is not lost. A new king comes into power in Babylon in 538 BC, is sympathetic to the Hebrews, and sends them back to Jerusalem with his blessings and support to rebuild the city and the temple, which they did, and once again grow and thrive. Coincidence? Just a throw of the dice? The new guy likes the Hebrews? Or did someone or something put a bug in the king's ear? The plot thickens. The Persians attempt to conquer territories further west of Canaan. The Greeks resist and defeat the Persians in 336 under Alexander. And the Greek Empire grows across Egypt, Canaan, Asia Minor, and briefly into India. But for a very short time, Alexander dies at the age of 32. And shortly thereafter, his generals fight amongst themselves and split the Greek Empire into five different divisions. And what we know is a nation divided cannot stand. By 63 BC, the Romans defeat the Greeks and begin their empire, eventually covering most of Europe, Asia Minor, northern part of Africa, including Egypt. So when Jesus' ministry begins, it was a time of relative peace and prosperity. Pax Britannia, the peace of Rome, although brutal and difficult by today's standards. Jesus was in the middle of the crossroads of all the major trade routes, covering the entire known world at that time. Languages and cultures intermixed, written documents could be shared and dispersed, and there was enough civilization so that people had time to reflect, study the teachings of their religion, and listen to new ideas that were constantly emerging. By 30 AD, almost the whole world had been exposed to great truths. Chance occurrences, or a greater plan to teach and unite. And through it all, it was great teachers who happened to be there at the time. Each and every time, it was almost a single person who created the difference. The story continues. The Hebrew scriptures and Christian writings were eventually combined and authorized into the law of the land in 325 AD by Constantine. The Bible was born. And although the defeat of the Western Roman Empire ushered in the Middle Ages, the Bible survived. In the 7th century, Muhammad starts Islam and brings these sacred writings to a people for the first time that hadn't seen them before. The Gutenberg printing press makes that book available in the 1400s. In the late 1400s and the 1500s, as civilization starts to move west with a greater idea, they discover a new continent to the west. As civilization moves ever westward, the King James Version is authorized in the early 1600s, and in the 1600s, people began to flee to that new continent of America for religious freedom, to a land and people that proclaim, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those who first came here were looking for a new and better life for themselves and their families. They had a spiritual drive. They had that pull. They had that guidance. They were industrious. They were brave and courageous, willing to work for their dreams. And the nation that they started has become one of the greatest nations the world has ever seen. Is it perfect? No, far from it. But what I can tell you this morning is that our divisions, our idiosyncrasies, the things that are holding us back, are now visible for each and every one of us to see, and it's our choice which way we will go. And it will be our choice, whether that, not our choice, but somebody else's choice, whether that torch is passed or not. From whence humanity has come, many of us can now see and believe and have the opportunity to create something even greater. There is a divine conspiracy at work. It calls to every person, to each and every one of us, to be greater, to be more loving, to learn and embrace the higher truths and to live them, which are out there in abundance for us to see and embrace. But God is no respecter of persons. There are no apologies because it's hard. If we do not listen, if we fail to do the work, the torch will be passed to another. As each one of us goes, as our friends and families go, as the organizations we are involved with go, so goes the communities, so goes the nation, and so goes the world. It's our choice. So let us choose wisely. Grasshopper. Let's take just a moment. Let's just take a moment and let all that settle. I know there was a lot. You wouldn't believe how much was left on the drawing board. Let us be still for just a moment. And open our hearts. Open our minds. And think of that one thought. That has been with us all our lives. That's perhaps had a resurgence lately as we come to this church. Just settle into that thought. A greater thought. A greater person within that body of yours wanting to emerge. A person loving. A person with patience. A person inspired with great energy to go forth. That person is you. And I want you to know, right here and right now, that that greater person about to emerge can happen any moment. You are surrounded with a guidance that has built a universe. You are surrounded by a presence and a power that wants good and only good for you. And through you, to be the torch, to be the light for those around you. A helping hand, a smile, a thought shared in the middle of an argument. It's little things. Not big, grandiose things. Yes, there are people who do those things, but for us, in our families, in the places we work, in the community, in the times we volunteer, it is God working through each and every one of us. Let us open that door. Let us feel that presence and guidance. And each and every day as we begin our day with a few quiet moments, inviting in the presence and power of God. We know that the day will be easier. There will be opportunities. And we simply reflect and say, thank you, God, for being with me right here and right now. Thank you, God. So it is.
I am that I am has sent me to this now moment. Here I am that I am has sent me to this now moment. Here I am to be the voice and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth. To be the voice and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth. I am that I am, that I am, that I am.
I love that song. Yeah, I love that song. The late Richard Levy, a Unity minister, was having troubles in his life, and he was just kind of wondering what it was all about and what he was to do and who he was to speak to, and he went into meditation. And that's the song that came out. To be the voice, to be the heart, right here and right now. Wow. As I was sitting down there and you played that song, I remember Richard. You know, we were good friends. You know, kind of brings a tear to your eye. Well, let me switch gears. Now is the time in our service when we practice our gratitude, when we have an opportunity to give from a heart filled with abundance, to support not only this church, but each and every one of us here. And as we will say in just a few minutes, through us, we bless the world. So join me in our offering statement together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love, and I receive in abundance.
I am that I am, has sent me to this now moment. Here I am that I am, has sent me to this now moment. Here I am, to be the voice and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth. And to be the heart through which heaven is made known.
So we give thanks for these tithes and these offerings so freely given. We are the voice. We are the heart through which heaven blesses us and our families and the world. Thank you, God. So it is.
I am that I am, that I am, that I am, that I am. I am that I am, that I am, that I am, that I am. I am that I am, that I am, that I am, that I am.
Thank you, Doug. For announcements, we will meet at the spot at 6 p.m. on Thursdays, and this is an opportunity for us all to get to know each other and to have some fellowship. Dancing with Spirits on Sunday morning will be paused for the summer. We'll let you know when it resumes. Reminder that the annual Unity Retreat is in beautiful Lake Junaluska. This is upcoming October the 3rd through the 6th. This year's theme is Enlighten Up. This is going to be a great retreat. And if you are interested or you have questions, please see Penny after the services. And also there's registration forms on the welcome table. Next week is Father's Day. So if there's a special man in your life, please invite him to attend. Following the service here at Red Bank, we will have pancakes for Pop brunch to honor all the men and the dads in our congregation. Also, we'll have celebration during next Sunday service for our first 2 spirit groups. This will be honoring the participants for the spirit group. Following, we have several Unity t-shirts and chakra bracelets in the back for sale. All the sales go towards the building fund. The building search team is working diligently to find a new location where we can expand our love and offer members and the community a place of our own. Now, thank you all so much for being here, and let's join hands and sing our peace song.
Peace that was meant to
together our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Most of you know Wayne Dyer, and whenever he had a problem, he would call his friend Deepak Chopra and explain the problem and ask the great Deepak Chopra what he should do. And Deepak would always answer, meditate. Have a great week.